Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Boldly Becoming podcast. I've got a lovely guest for you today, owner extraordinaire Kate Styles of Kate Styles.Photography, which you will get to know and love a little bit more with each episode as you hear our guests talk. But who better than to have the running woman, right? Or like that started the team, we'll say it that way, because I know you look at it in so many different like aspects of leading as a woman leader, but then also running a team that you allow to do what they want to do and like doing it in a creative way that's just like this beautiful harmony. So Kate, if you wanted to kind of just give like a little intro for yourself, and that doesn't have to be business, it can be like life too, like go for it. That's just your time to kind of give your...
That was like the nicest intro.
You're welcome.
I'm like, wow, how do I follow up with that? So I'm Kate. I have been an entrepreneur, like right out of high school, honestly. And I have 3 children. Honestly, that was a main driver of it is I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 while raising my family. And, I wanted to build a business that would not only support me and my family, but also give me that lifestyle to make sure they were loved and taken care of. So entrepreneur is like in my blood. I can't help it. I have this amazing studio with the best staff in the world. I truly wouldn't be able to function without them. I am a guru of learning how like psychology works, how money works in our brains. I'm just a lover of people. I am an extrovert, although it has been very hard for me to extrovert at this like time of my life, just because work tends to take over. And so having a team that's really helpful with that is very nice. But yeah, so I'm married to my high school sweetheart. I have 3 children and I have like many businesses at this point.
That is you in a nutshell. You have as many businesses as you can think of, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's beautiful how you have found a way to love money for yourself, because you talk about in your money story that you have had to kind of learn about money in your adult life and kind of figure it out on your own because your parents were working on it, right? And and I have a very similar background. So that was what gravitated me towards you in business before I decided to work with you. But I think it's cool how you see and map, whether that's in your life that also floods into business, kind of orchestrating those different things. And then wanting to teach other people about it, whether that's how to feel more secure with your money, how to put it into like properties, or how to run a business, how to be creative and still make money. Like you found beautiful ways to not even like capitalize on it, but like help other people feel seen in that area because you knew what it was like to have to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I promise I didn't tee you up to talk about us as a team, but I'm grateful that this is a team that I got to be part of. So I'm going to give you your flowers there. But
so nice.
Yeah, happy to do it, girl. You know me. Words of affirmation. That's our love language. Yeah. Well, okay. So, and a little bit into more of your personal story that, I kind of talked to you about this beforehand, but it's the side of you that brought you in on the creative side, the storytelling piece, without even needing to like work hard for it. You fell into this in your own personal life and then found that there was a community out there that needed your story. So it has to do with business because you brought it into your photography studio, but tell us a little bit more about how, because a big piece of this podcast is getting to know people's becoming story, and that's their transformation, because every woman that comes in here has one.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like your IVF story, and how you brought that also into your photography studio, like tell us a little bit more about that if you'd like what was that becoming story for you in that area of your life?
Yeah. I think it's crazy because when you told me we were doing this today, I had no idea you were going to be like, hey, Kate, like literally 20 minutes ago, you're like, so we're going to talk about this. I was like, oh, because IVF was such a big part of my life, but because it was almost 10 years ago at this point, I kind of don't think about it until someone asks me about it. But I knew very young that I wanted to be a mom. Like that was not something, I mean, there are some people that don't know if they want to be parents. There's some people who never want to be parents. There's some who are like eventually, but for me, I knew like me and my husband, we both wanted kids. And I want to say at the age of 21, I want to say I was 21, we got pregnant and I had a miscarriage. And for like 2 years after that, I swear was probably like the darkest time in my life, because I mean, we didn't know what was wrong. We didn't know much of anything other than the fact that like we were struggling to get pregnant again. And it was really hard for me because at the time, like my absolute best friend in the entire world ended up getting pregnant. And so it was very, very difficult to even know like what my life was. It was a lot of crying. It was a lot of depression. And at the time, being 21, you don't make tons of money to invest into IVF. And we did not have health insurance at the time that was going to cover IVF. And so we started talking with doctors about like the cheaper way to do things. We tried to do a handful of IUIs, which is where they take the sperm, they clean it up, and they inject it into you. We did that about 3 or 4 times, and that didn't work. And that was like $200 to $300 every time. And of course, like you can only do it once per month. Like, so, you know, you have this long time that you have to wait in between each cycle, you know, and you're taking medicine at that point. Like it's very emotionally hard. It's very physically hard. And then finally, I really started looking at, okay, how can I get funding for IVF? What is this going to look like for me? And I'm very thankful that it worked for us. We have my son, he's almost 10. I talk about that. Like I used to joke, he's my $1 million baby. Like he cost me, I want to say about $16,000 to be here. But going through IVF itself was a story that not many people hear about from me anymore, but it's one that I love to share and I love to talk about, especially when I have another woman who comes into the studio and is struggling with it, because I can physically remember like how physically exhausted you feel being on all the meds. So when you're on IVF, at least in my case, you take tons of shots. Like you have to give yourself shots because the whole point is to make your ovaries grow like as many eggs as possible. And so it's like shots in the morning, shots in the evening, medicine that you're orally taking. And it's funny because as women, we like really don't feel our ovaries per se. But when you're doing this and they're filled with so many eggs, it literally feels like softballs inside your belly. Like, and it's like tender to touch. Like it feels heavy. It is like a really strange feeling period, honestly. And then you go in, the doctor like literally goes up there, extracts all of the eggs. They take them and put them in petri dishes and they inseminate them. So, yeah. It was quite.
It's invasive.
Very invasive, and just like when you spend like $12,000 on something and you don't even know if it's going to work, and you feel all these things going through your body, it's, you know, what is happening.
Sure.
And so I was very thankful. Everyone was very supportive in my community. You know, my parents were very supportive of whatever I needed. They were just here to listen because there's not much anybody can do. It's more so just be listening ear and don't judge. Like I had a handful of people that were like, why are you doing all of this at, you know, 23 years old? Everyone always like has to put a number on it, right? Or like have to insert their own opinions, but this is my life and this is what I wanted and it was my money.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you mentioned that too, because I've not had human children yet, the dog, but you know, eventually I want to have kiddos. And I think a beautiful element that you've brought into the studio is when we have women that come in, we don't ask them, do they have children if we don't know that they're a mother already? And what you instilled in me unintentionally was that could be a very emotional conversation because they might be going through what you went through and maybe they aren't having a good experience. We have clients that we know that have dealt with that. Or maybe they don't want children, or maybe and we also talk about in here that you are not your role. You are many things and you're not defined by, which a lot of the world tries to tell us that we're meant to be mothers, and some are in their bones know that they want to be moms, and that's beautiful. But their journey, just like you explained yours, can be a lot harder than just having a baby.
Yes.
So how else, other than maybe just language, and which is so important with what we do in the studio, but how else do you feel like you brought that into the studio with your story, or how you've served other women in that capacity, if that makes sense?
That's a great question. And I do find it funny that you brought that up, because it's just a rule in me in my head that we just don't ask women if they have children. If they bring it up, it's great, but that's not a question we ask. And like, it's just, I've been doing it for so long, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But, not only that, but just giving women a space to talk about their bodies. I try not to ask tons of questions that are emotionally filled like that. I really truly try to open it up and let them tell me what's going on in their life. I ask them, you have any travel plans this summer? Do you have any exciting going on? And I try to leave it like an open-ended question, so that way my client's kind of leading me down what they want to talk about. Now, if they want to get emotional and they want to open up about everything, I am not going to stop them. But I always let the client lead first on the conversations, because this is their space to fill up. Yeah. And I want them to decide which rabbit hole we're going down.
No, for sure. And I think what also plays into all of those things is we're helping them feel comfortable along the way while they're getting ready in the hair and the makeup or whatever we do beforehand. And then when it comes into the posing, I mean, when you're coming in for maternity photos, if they're at that point in their journey, there's only so many poses you can really do. Right. We get creative. We definitely get creative, y'all. We do some other fun things and lighting and whatnot. But I think even just with how you interact with them in that part of the session is also beautiful and a little bit different. Like you said, you can kind of, when they share their story, if they've gone through the similar thing or just struggle with getting pregnant, or where they're at now. And sometimes it's not the first baby. Sometimes it's down the line, right? You said you kind of feel that story over again. Do you feel like that shows up in how you pose them and those kinds of elements of the session, or?
I don't know if it necessarily, I mean, maybe it does and I don't recognize that.
Sure.
But I do know that at least like most recently, having a client coming in and sharing everything that she had been going through, we did our best to make sure it was about her and loving your body. And sometimes that's just taking a moment and being like, okay, just place your fingers right on your collarbone and breathe. Sometimes it's just those little things that make such a huge difference, is like slowing down and letting the client love on themselves. I mean, maybe that's the first time they've done it in a long time. You and I both witnessed that, of like, just take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. And like, you watch their whole demeanor change. So I don't know if I necessarily pose them specifically or feel anything different that way, but I do think that you and I both do this. We just follow the client's lead and we'll do what we feel led to do, like within the feelings of the room, the vibrations.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of what I had in mind too when I was thinking of that question, because it's very much, it is an art to get them to feel comfortable, to get them to feel themselves after a few minutes. Like, because we understand it's weird to be in front of a camera and then you're like, okay, so it looked great. So what does that mean? Yeah. So we don't use words like that, but no.
Say you look confident or like you're radiating or like, dang girl, like I see it. Like, so we try really hard not to be like, oh, you look sexy. Like that's not something we ever say in here.
Yeah. Well, and that was another thing I was thinking of. I think when I was asking that was how we're like painting them with light in some aspects, as you've kind of coined that term, but also just reminding them. And I've heard you say time and time again, your body has gotten you through a lot of different seasons. And so what it looks like is, the life and the history and the story that you get to tell. And it's beautiful when we see the women actively transform in the studio and believe that, especially when they see the photos at the end. So
oh my gosh, that's my favorite part.
I was going to say, so give yourself a round of applause, quietly, not on the mic. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Break your eardrum.
No. Right. But I was going to say, is there anything else before I kind of wrap it up and ask you our last question, that you want to kind of impart with people on what it is that your intention was with creating the studio, what it is that it felt like to be a photographer, a business owner? Is there anything you want to leave us with there?
Whenever you start something and you feel yourself gravitate towards something more, whether, whatever job you're in. But like in the photography world, it is such a vast world of genres of things that you could photograph. I never thought I would fall into like boudoir and maternity. Like that's not something I went out and like pursued. It really like found me. And so truly, if you're on a journey to find something for yourself and you're starting a business and everyone is telling you, well, this is the only way you're going to make money. This is the only way you're going to survive. Stop. Don't listen to it. And it might take you 6 months to figure that out. It might take you 2 years. But when you're being drawn into direction, just follow your gut because it's the universe taking you there for a reason.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Echo times 10. And it's easy to be defeated in business, whether you're solo or you have a team. It's easy to have seasons where it's usually when you're growing.
Yes.
That it feels the hardest. Yeah. That feels the hardest, right? Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your time. I'll ask you one question that I like to ask everyone, which is, we get a lot of wisdom in our makeup chair in there, right? From each of our women that come in. What's one piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today?
That your number on a scale or your height or your shoe size or your pant size does not define who you are ever.
Love, period, point blank. Well, thank you, babe. I'm so glad you were here and the folks could get to know you a little bit better. I know in some cases they're like, oh, I only know Kate or I only know Carter or I only know Megan.
Right.
Or I know everybody, but like, what's the difference between all y'all? Y'all look the same.
Right.
Do we? We're a little bit different in height and hair color. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm glad that we got to share a little bit more about you because even I hadn't heard the full extent of your IVF story. I thought I had, and there's some parts that I didn't know. So I'm glad that we had this conversation today.
Thanks for asking. I was like, wow, we're going down a rabbit hole today, and I'm here for it.
Well, thank you guys again for listening to the Boldly Becoming podcast. I hope you tune in for more.